In this video, I'm going to explain the differences between test strategy and test plan. Often testers get confused with these two and use this interchangeably. I found a lot of good information online about the differences. I'm just trying to put that information together so it will give a clear picture about the differences of these two. So let's just start now. Test strategy. Test strategy is something that is prepared at the organization level, whereas test plan is at the project level. And what is test strategy? This is a high level document describing the way testing will be carried out in an organization. And it basically aims at providing a systematic approach to the software testing process. So, the way testing will be carried out in an organization, this is an important line to note when we are talking about the test strategy. And what is a test plan? A test plan is a formal document derived from requirement documents. It describes in detail the scope of testing and the different activities performed during testing. So, scope of testing and the activities performed during the testing is what the test plan consists of. And describing the way of how the testing will be carried out in an organization is what a test strategy is about. Okay, so what it consists, what these two documents consists of, it can be a document or it can be just information provided in your Confluence or wiki pages, but what it should contain basically is this, the second row here. Test strategy is a vision of testing. So it defines test objectives, test approaches, if it is a manual, automation, or API testing, test data related information, how you are going to create the test data, store it, backing it up, test data backups, and what sort of dummy data we are using, if we are using any production data, how the masking should happen, and what are the guidelines about the from the company for using the production data, and if there are any test data creation tools available. All that sort of information should be available under the test data section. Then testing tools. So you can use different testing tools within the company, right? So you can have test management tools, defect management tools, or automation tools. All that information would be available under testing tools. Then test environment. Different types of testing will be performed in different environments. The unit testing, for example, is performed in the dev environment, and then the system testing or the functional testing will be performed in the staging or QA environments, where that environment is shared with multiple testers generally, and the automation environment is for the dedicated automation runs. If there is any non-functional testing like performance testing, then you would need to have a static environment. So based on the specific needs of the testing, you need to be able to use or create the test environments that are available. So all that information will be available under test environment section. Then defect management process, how we are going to manage or triage the defects, and what is the defect workflow, and what is the information that needs to be filled when creating the defects, and when the defects are fixed, then what sort of fields need to be filled, like for example RCA, root cause analysis field. And when creating the defect, you need to have the reproduction steps, for example, what is the expected result and what is the actual result you have got that has made your test case failed. All that sort of information, the best practices basically for creating defects, triaging, and workflows. That information will be under defect management. Then test metrics. So every organization will have its own metrics to follow for process improvements. So when we say test metrics, generally those are like test coverage, automation coverage, defect leakage, those sort of metrics, or even more actually, that we can have and mention here what sort of metrics are being followed by the organization. And based on the values, based on those metrics, the key metrics, you will monitor them and you will make decisions to improve your processes based on those metrics. Then risk analysis and mitigation. So what are the project level risks? If there are any, then you will mention them under here, and the analysis of those risks, and what are the mitigation measures. Then reporting at organization level. So the testing all together at that organization level, and how you do the reporting, and what are the various information or various metrics that you will report at the organization level. that will be mentioned here. So this is the vision of testing, and it is a high level document that contains all this information we just see. Then what is a test plan? What that document, that process should consist of. So this is a blueprint or a guideline that describes test scope. So what is there in the scope of your testing and what is not in scope as well. If you need to mention that a specific area is not being covered with this testing, you mentioned that also in the not in scope section. Then testing approach, whether it is a manual or automation or both. Testing types, functional, non-functional, integration, smoke testing, regression testing, sanity testing, security testing, etc. What are all the testing types that you are going to execute? Then resource planning, who is responsible for what in your team. Then scenarios for test coverage. What are the scenarios or the business workflows that will be covered? Then exit criteria. So when you decide to close your testing, what are the closure activities? That will also be mentioned in the exit criteria section. Test deliverables and scheduling to intend testing activities during a project level. So what are the deliverables your or testing artifacts that you are going to deliver, and what is the scheduling of the intended activities during a project level? When we say testing artifacts, it could be like your test case documents, test result documents, a traceability matrix, test summary reports, or automation run reports, all of that, your automation code, the regression suites, all of that will be part of your testing artifacts. In fact, this test plan is a template to let other stakeholders know what the testing team is doing and how they are doing for a specific project. So this is for the stakeholders understanding, and also it is for the testing team's understanding also, to follow the plan, and if there are any deviations to the plan, then we can quickly take the control activities into place. Then test strategy usually doesn't change frequently because it's at the organization level and you have created the strategy that you must follow at the organization level, and unless there is a big need for the change, you won't usually change it. You may try to improve it periodically, but you won't change that frequently. Whereas test plan can change over time as the project gets updated. For example, you have created the test plan just before your project started, and while you're in the middle of your project, you have come to know that, oh, there is some localization testing that needs to be performed because we have a so and so requirement that had come late into our process. Then we can go back and update the test plan to cover the extra testing type that you have discovered, and you can add the details about it, which is fine. So this is about the test strategy and test plan differences. I hope it gives some clear information now. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comment section. Thank you so much. See you next time.